Right, we have question 4. This, of course, was February 2011. They are saying here in the diagram below, triangle PQR with the vertices P, Q as well as R is given. Then we can see there that is P. What are the coordinates of P there? That is -1 and 2. The coordinates of R you can see 3, 0. And Q there -2 as well as -2. Right, now let us look at the first question. What is the first question there? The first question says now we must calculate the angle that PQ makes with the positive x-axis. The first question says calculate the angle that PQ makes with the positive x-axis. Right, now if they talks of the angle, what comes in your mind? If they talks of the angle, what comes in your mind? Of course, you will remember that for you to have the angle, you need the gradient. That's what I said earlier on. For you to have the angle, you need the gradient. Remember now, the angle that we are referring here, it must be with the positive x-axis. Now, here is PQ. Then the angle that we are referring to now, it's this angle here. We want to find the size of this angle that PQ makes. Of course, now it means first of all now we need to have what? We need to have the gradient of what? We need to have the gradient of PQ. Now, what is the gradient of PQ there? That is, of course, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 over x2 minus x1. Good. Now we need to check now. Then it means we are going to use P as well as what? As well as Q. We are going to use P as well as Q. Right, from this one, I can say this is x1, y1, x1, y1, and then x2, y2. x1, y1, and x2, y2. Right, of course, from this one now, I can now say, okay, y2, there is a -2. -2 there, -2, that will be what? That will be x1, y1, divided by x2 there. It's also -2, and then x1 there is a -1. It is -1. Now you must put it inside the brackets so that you can now be able to multiply by the negative sign. Right. The next step here will be what? We just simplify. -2 minus 2, that will be -4. Now -2 minus -1. When you multiply the 2, now it becomes what? Positive. Nay, negative times negative is a +1. Now -2 plus 1, of course, that will be -1. Then what is the answer here? You see that the answer here now is what? The answer here is, it is a positive form. Right, now, remember now, most of you will say now that what if now I decide to say this is x2, y2? Of course, it doesn't matter. What's important is make sure that if you say this is x2 and also this one must also be what? This one must also be y2. Then this will be x1 and the other one will be y1. It is very important. Right, now we have what? Now we have the gradient. Now, which formula now do we use when we determine the angle of inclination or the angle that PQ makes with the positive x-axis? Of course, now we will say now a tan of theta, if we name that angle to be theta there, tan of theta then is equals to what? Is equals to m, right? Tan of theta there is equals to m. Of course, what is our m there? M there is what? Is 4. Then from here now you remember now, you just multiply both sides by the inverse of tan or the tan arc. Is very important. Therefore, we have the inverse of tan 4 there. Now the answer there is what? What is the answer on this one? Of course, you can use your calculator on this one. Then we have the inverse of tan +4. Then our answer there is 75,96 degrees. Then the answer there is 75,96 degrees. Of course, it's very important. The gradient is positive. If the gradient is positive, it means we are expecting to get the angle which is what? Which is less than 90. Expecting to get the angle which is less than 90. Of course, that is the first question there. Right, boys and girls, like I said earlier on, it's very important to make sure that we are able to use the two. right? It is very important to make sure that you're able to use the 2. Now, if I say to you now, this angle now, it is given. If I say to you now, this angle here, it is given now, they are saying this angle here, it is what? The angle here is 75,96. And of course, the coordinates of P on this side, the coordinates of Q, then it's a -2 as well as P. And of course, this one is still -1 as well as 2. Right, now you are asked now to determine what? You are asked now to determine the gradient of PQ. You are asked now to determine the gradient of PQ. What is it that you are going to do here? Remember, for you to determine the gradient, you must make sure that you have the 2 points. Of course, when I look at this one, I have P as well as Q. But the problem here is I cannot use the gradient formula. Why? Because I don't know what is the value of what? What is the value of P? Therefore, I cannot use the gradient formula. Then I must look for another way. Right now, what is it that I have also here? Now, immediately once you see that you have this angle here, which is 75,96, that is our angle of inclinations. Therefore, we can use the angle now because we know that tan of theta is equals to m. Right now, we have the angle, which is what? Which is 75,96. Then we can now use this one. It's just substitute the angle there. And now immediately from this one, you just say, okay, what is tan of what? What is tan of 75,96? Now the answer then you can see now that is 3,99888. Of course, that is 3,9988857. This is our m. Now, when you round it off to 2 decimal places, now you see now the gradient is equals to 4. Then, of course, I believed that the next question, immediately once we have this form, the next question will then be determining the value of what? Determining the value of P. Then, of course, since now you have the gradient, now you can use the gradient formula now to determine the value of P. It's very important. That is why I said earlier on, make sure that you are able to use the 2 to be able to determine the gradient and also to use the gradient as well as to find the angle of the inclinations. Right. Now, let us look at 4.2. 4.2 there, it says now you must determine the coordinates of M. What is M? M is the midpoint of what? M is the midpoint of PR. M is the midpoint of PR there. That is a 2 marks question. Boys and girls, I believe now you are familiar with this type of questions. Of course, it's a 2 marks questions. Yeah, maybe 2 minutes we will do on this one, right? Can you determine for me the coordinates of M, which is the midpoint of PR? Then immediately after 2 minutes, then we'll talk about what strictly 2 minutes, boys and girls. We must learn now to use our time effectively. Right, thank you, boys and girls. Your time is up now. Let us see what is it that we have, right? Can you see? You can just check your answer there with your colleagues next to you there. What is your answer? Yes. Now, can you see that one is correct? Yes. Now, let us now check. I can see now there are those who make some of the mistakes there which are not important, boys and girls. Please let us make sure that each and every time when you work out this one, you work it out in a correct way. What is the formula first? It's very important now. The midpoint there is m into x1 plus x2 divided by what? Divided by 2 there. And now we have y1 plus y2 divided by what? Divided by 2. Of course, now from here, now you can now do your substitution now. They said the coordinates of M, which is the midpoint of PR. Now it means now we need to go back to our diagram now to check where is PR. This is PR. Then it means M is somewhere on this side here. Right? It means now we needed the coordinates of R as well as the coordinates of what? As well as the coordinates of P as well. Right now, from here now, we will be saying now, okay, x1 here is what? X1 here is a -1, and then what is x2? Then x2, of course, will be this one here, where we have a +3, then we divided by 2, and now we have y1. What is y1? Y1, of course, it's 2, and now what is y2? Y2 there, you can see it's 0. Then we divide it by what? We divide it by 2. Then you are right there. Now from here, now we can simplify now to say Then we have minus 1 plus 3. What is minus 1 plus 3? Minus 1 plus 3 is 2. Is that correct? Yes. That is 2 divided by 2. And then 2 plus 0, of course, is 2. We divided by 2 as well. Therefore, now the midpoint here is 2 divided by 2, the answer is 1. And also 2 divided by 2, then the answer is 1. Then you can see now the midpoint of this line is where x is 1 and also where y is a positive. It's a positive 1. Right, of course, boys and girls, you can see now your answer there. It's 100% correct.